On this episode, we talk about making your team move faster. We talk about billing, invoices, and P&Ls. And finally, we talk about the future of citation building. Hey everyone, my name is Adam Steele, and welcome back to another episode of the Steele Entrepreneur Show. This is episode 7. Thank you. Oh man. 7. Every episode is a little challenge of mine. I will be the first to admit I don't have the discipline to get in here every Friday and do these. So I have to set an appointment out a week out. I have to pay for the space. I have to do all these things to kind of like wrestle myself into these episodes, but it's all good. I like doing them. It's just there's just so many things that I need to do. Anyways, we're going to talk about a few things today. These last couple of videos have ran super long, and so I was fortunate to get a few questions this time, and I'm just going to stick to those questions because it just I just don't want to. I don't want these videos to be. We uploaded the last video to Facebook, and Facebook made us go back and compress it because it was too big and too long. Did we tell you that, Brianna? No? That's crazy, right? So yeah, I think we've got to keep them in sort of the 25-minute, 20-minute arena. Well,
compress it quality-wise or length-wise?
Well, it definitely wasn't length because obviously we didn't cut it or anything like that. But we did. We had to reduce the quality, which I didn't even check to see if that became a problem or anything. So I'll have to find out. Anyways, Rihanna, what's topic 1? Well, you've got the order over there.
How do we measure speed with units of work?
And I touched on this in one of the earlier episodes, so go back. And I want to say it's episode 2, maybe episode 3, where I talked about Scrum and Trello and how we have our sort of system worked out, how we move, how we get stuff done on a weekly basis, our workflow, I guess you could call it. And I'll mention again, just like I mentioned during that episode, you absolutely have to, if you lead people, have to check out the book, Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice as Much in Half the Time, something like that. It's by Jeff Sutherland, I want to say, and I think Jeff, I think son and father, and it is an absolutely brilliant book on how to manage teams, but more specifically, how to get teams to kick ass. And so what we're going to talk about today is just a subsection of that book, or a subsection of some of its teachings. And it talks about units of work and measuring units of work and being able to measure how fast your team is working in a particular period of time. So we have basically 7-day sprints. So Thursday to Thursday, that is we'll queue stuff up to be done on Thursday, and it'll have to be done by Thursday, the next Thursday. And then we just sort of cut it off and we see, okay, well, how much got accomplished? And then we calculate our speed. And we do that by assigning a unit, a number, to each particular task that we queue up. And again, we use Trello, so we're queuing up these little cards, these little tasks in Trello. And so we use these numbers, and I won't go into the nitty gritty of it, but I might queue up a task, or an account manager rather would queue up a task, and it would be, let's say, a 3. And the way they explain how to sort of pick numbers and use these numbers is they want us to use 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and then they've got a few other numbers beyond that. Do you know what those numbers are called? That sort of sequence of numbers where it's like 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. No. I sucked at math. But in any event, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 8. And basically those, we're told to think of those more as project size versus how many hours it's going to take to accomplish a particular task. And the reason for that is they want it to be relative. At least I think this is what they explain. It's been a while since I've read the book. But they want it to be relative to another size task. So a two size task is twice as big as a 1. And a 3 is bigger than a 2, and so on and so forth. So they want there to be that relativity. They want you to be able to look at one and be like, I can't take on this. I don't have a 3 left in me today. I've got a 1. Or you're just starting your day and you don't want to dive into something big. So you just knock out a couple 1s. And now you're like, I've got some stuff accomplished. I feel good. I've checked some boxes. I've dragged some tasks or some cards in Trello. And then you can take on something bigger. But also, the second reason that they want us to do that is because Scrum is often, I think it sort of came out of design and development shops. And so in design, and forgive me if I'm wrong on this, I believe this is how he explained it. In design shops, you say something's going to take 8 hours, it takes 16. It's just the way it is. Certainly if it's something you're doing for the first time, or this is a new website you're building, even if you've done this particular function many times, oftentimes it always takes longer than you think it's going to take. At least that's the case in my experience. Shame on my developers if I've learned wrong, but basically to make an 8 hours, it doesn't really jive. It's not going to jive, because an 8, if you say it's going to take 8 hours, there's a good chance it's not going to take 8 hours. And so now what does that number represent to you? It's kind of meaningless, right? So we've tried, and it's tempting to think of it as hours. We've tried to think of it as project size instead. So like I said, we will assign a particular task with a number. And one really important thing that I've discovered is not to, the reason we stop at 8 is because 8 is like a full day, essentially. It's like and again, I try not to think of it as hours. And I know 8 and 8 hours, 8 hours being, your typical day kind of thing, perhaps. Think of it as project size. 8 for us is a full day, right? So if you're going to take on an 8, you can expect it to take a full day, right? And the reason we don't have, say, a 12 or a 15 or a 20, which they prescribe that you use, is because I want my guys and gals to be able to complete something in a single day. I want them to have that sort of satisfaction that they came in today, they crushed it, and they got an 8 done, or they got an 8 and a 2 done, right? Versus coming in, working on a 12, and leaving and have not accomplished anything. Yes, maybe they've, completed the first and second component of that particular task, but if there's a certain satisfaction, like mental satisfaction, that you get from moving something left to right, to doing something, to completing something. And so they get that when they're able to take a task which was made smaller and drag it over. So let me give you an example. Design. Designers hand over PSDs to the Photoshop files to the developer. Developer will break it down into 3 tasks. And this is hypothetical. Forgive me if I'm getting this wrong. It's just the first example that comes to mind. They'll break it down into, say, slicing, coding to HTML, and then bringing it into WordPress, right? Now, you could put that into one task, because it would, depending on the page, it might only take, it might only take a day, right? But we assume that it will take more, and so we break it into 3 tasks. So that, that individual may now be able to accomplish 3 things in one day. It feels like they got a lot accomplished, even though, really it's only, one task, but we broke it out into 3 and he got more done. Now for the managers, How frustrating would it be if you looked across all your clients or all your projects, and because you had grouped everything into these big tasks that take multiple days, you would look at a day and nothing got accomplished. That would be depressing, right? Right? You would go to your people and you would say, what the fuck is going on here? Right? I've given you all these tasks and you didn't get anything done. And they'll explain, well, I got 30% of this done, I got 20% of that done, 10%, right? It doesn't feel the same. So for managers, it's nice to be able to see stuff moving, like physically moving, being done, checked off a list. And so that's why we have broken things down into no bigger than an 8. So the final step is the actual measurement of speed. How do we measure how quickly a particular task is completed? Or rather, how do we measure how much, was completed in an individual week? Well, what we do is once everything is moved into done, so once everything is done, we tally up, all the projects, all the clients, all the whatever we're working on. We will tally up all the numbers. Okay, an 8 was accomplished, a 5 was accomplished, a 3 was accomplished, a 1 was accomplished, a bunch of 2s were accomplished. We add all those numbers up, let's say they're 33, and we then compare that to other weeks. So we'll see that last week we only got 21 accomplished. So this week we're moving much faster. We got more accomplished, assuming, of course, our project size numbers are accurate, which they generally are. And so now I know that my team is getting faster. How would I have known that otherwise, right? Sometimes it's not clear. So by assigning a number to a particular size of task, I'm able to figure out how my team is moving each week and whether they're having a down week or whether a particular area or project is moving slower than it did in the previous week, because you can break it down. You can go even further. We never did this, but you could break it down by employee too, potentially. How much are they producing in an individual week? How productive were they? Now, I'll be the first to say I've had troubles implementing this. I struggled at the start. We got it going, and then it's that counting bit. It's the keeping track of the numbers, adding them all up, throwing them in a spreadsheet. We had an app that sort of did that for us, but there was a lot of shortcomings, and it just ended up being kind of a real sort of pain in the ass to do. My suggestion is to either be less lazy than me and just make it happen, or assign someone to do it specifically. That is their job. That is part of their job expectations. Maybe there's a million Trello integrations. There's a million. You use something like Zapier or something, or Zapier, and you can create an integration that way. There is a way to automate it, no doubt about it. And that's what we're looking at right now, is how can we make it so a human doesn't have to do it? And I think if we can do that and then perhaps chart it and graph it and then spit it into Slack at the end of every day or at the end of every week, we can get sort of a sense of how we're moving and report to people and do so in a way that isn't labor intensive, that doesn't require me, that doesn't require someone else to put it together. So something worth giving a try. I know, for the time that we did it, and again, we're trying to get it going again, it was tremendously helpful, and it was a great way to monitor how things were moving along on a project basis, but also a company-wide basis as well. So try it out. If you haven't read Scrum, get that book. And my last thought on the matter is I recently put together a screen share. I'd put one together before, but the sound quality was absolutely terrible. Just search YouTube for Trello, Scrum, make my team move faster, or doubled my marketing agency's speed, or something like that. We're going to share it on our Facebook page too, / the Adam G. Steele, lame URL, I know, but it's what we had. And yeah, check that out, because I go into a lot of detail, a lot more detail than I have, and it's easier to sort of understand when you put sort of a video to a screen share of my screen, obviously, and how our boards are set up and how we use Scrum and how we use those numbers and all that kind of stuff. So check that out. We just recently posted it on YouTube, and it'll be on our Facebook page pretty soon as well. So Rihanna, what do we got next?
Okay, we've got invoicing, billing, and P&Ls.
Yeah. Invoicing, billing, and P&Ls. So I had a gentleman who's putting together his first company's sort of client-based sort of thing, and he's wondering how we do our billing, how we do our invoicing, how we do our tracking and costing and P&Ls and all that kind of stuff. And this is something I've struggled with from day one. I continue to struggle with today. But there are a few things that I've learned along the way, and you know, I promised in this show that we would have, that it would be in the trenches, right? That it would be what I'm doing, what my company is doing on a day-to-day, and try and sort of help you navigate a few of those things, maybe make a few less incorrect turns along the way, and that's what I want to do. So with this invoicing thing, this is something that we've been looking at this week, and my programmer and Josh have been going over, how do we automate this? How do we make it less painful for our bookkeeper? How do we make it less painful for some of our VA staff who are putting together numbers? How can we leverage the strength or the feature set of FreshBooks? We do all our time tracking, invoicing, and a number of other sort of tracking things within FreshBooks. It wasn't too long ago, maybe only 2 years ago, I was quite literally doing my invoicing via a Microsoft Word doc. I had a template. I would just change the numbers. I would PDF it and I would send it to a client. And then they would, we would sort out payment, and it was terrible. It was so terrible. And it was disorganized, and I am just really grateful that we discovered FreshBooks when we did, and I wish I had found it earlier, but we didn't. It's just like me to sort of think that I can do it myself, but eventually it just wasn't scalable, and it was not organized. It was just a mess. So, like I said, we use the way we have it set right now is, and I think it's kind of unique. Maybe it isn't, but I think it is. And it works pretty well for us, is we have everybody in FreshBooks. So I mentioned we do time tracking. So basically what I've done is I've created a company FreshBooks, and then I've added everybody as a subcontractor. So we've got like a couple dozen people at least set up as subcontractors in FreshBooks. And you can add their, what their billable is, what their billable hour is, among other, different things. And basically they track their time, and they're able to assign their time to a particular project. So similar to, like what a lawyer might use or what a lawyer might do, they assign their time to a particular project, and they explain what they did during that time, and so on and so forth. We do the same thing, not for the client's benefit, but rather for our own, my account manager's own, just try and get a sense of how we're spending our money. But not only that, I like to check in on projects that I'm not actively involved with, and just get a sense, if I want to get a sense of how what people are spending their time on, there's no better way than to go into time tracking and just pull up an invoice or pull up a project and see, okay, in the last week, Alex worked on this and Hugo worked on that, and blah blah blah. I can get a really good sense very quickly of what happened in the last month or in the last week or in whatever. So I found time tracking to be really valuable, but also valuable because I can run P&Ls pretty easily, so profit and loss statements. And I can do it by client. So we had this set up once upon a time in QBO, QuickBooks Online, but we sort of outgrew it very, very quickly. It's just not as nimble as we needed it to be, as customizable, I suppose, as it needed to be. And so we've since moved to QuickBooks Desktop, which has been a kind of a pain in the ass, to be honest, but we're finally sort of getting there. And the goal, and we're almost there, is to be able to look at every project, every client, every sub-project, every investment, everything that we're doing, and be able to see, of course, what are we making, how much revenue are we bringing in, and how much are our staff billing us, and so how much did we make that month, right? And there's going to be a lot of projects that are totally in the negative, right? Investments we're making or whatever. But it gives me a very granular, or not so granular when I want it, look at how each particular project or client or whatever is doing. And so by doing that time tracking, I'm able to assign their time to a particular project. And by building these P&Ls based on clients and projects, I'm able to look at a particular project, and not just the company as a whole, but a particular project or a particular client, and know exactly how we're doing on that project. And so what's unfortunately happened is, as we get more clients and more employees, that work accumulates and accumulates and accumulates, and it takes us a long time to prepare one of these reports. And so what's now happening is I'm not getting those P&Ls as fast as I need, which means for 2 or 3 weeks of the, let's say, what are we? We're June. I'm yet to receive my P&Ls. I have some idea of how we performed last month in an overall sense, but I don't know how we did in sort of a granular way. And it's because it takes so long to prepare, right? And we've got client work, we've got other priorities, right? But I'm driving with a broken windshield, essentially. And that is a scary place to be. So we have to put together some sort of automation that essentially probably takes the P&Ls out of QuickBooks, which removes that burden for the bookkeeping and accounting staff. And I think the way we would have it is we would use the FreshBooks API. I don't know how good it is yet. We're going to find that out. And grab the data we want. Get some, we've been looking at some open source graphing and accounting software, spit it into there. It's a horrible way to put it, but to bring it into there and then have it chart our growth, chart our P&Ls and all that kind of stuff. So we have the P&Ls for ourselves there, and then we'll be able to send along much more simple, I guess, just not these like crazy broken down, like an invoice. If we send John sends me an invoice, I send that invoice off to, or that invoice goes off to the bookkeeper. His invoice will be broken down into like 30 different projects. He'll have worked on 30 different projects that week. And so now the bookkeeper has to take each one of those expenses out and apply it to a P&L 30 times. So instead of just having one invoice and plugging that in and that being, the Magistrate or the Loganics or the whatever company P&L, you just got to break it down. And imagine that times all of our employees and all of our projects. Like, yeah, he probably has 30 items in his P&L, but other teammates will have even more than that. So do the math on that. It's insane, right? But that was at the time the only way that I could think of getting these sort of super granular reports. So that's something we're working on. Again, I don't necessarily know the right way yet. We're figuring it out. That's why I'm telling you about it. And hopefully the next time we speak, next time I do another episode or in one of the mini episodes, I can kind of explain, how things went. And I mean, feel free to check in with me, in a week or in 2 weeks to give my programmer and I enough time to muscle around a little bit with the API and some of what I hope are built-in integrations that FreshBooks has. So we'll find out, and hopefully next month I'll have my P&L right away, and I'll know exactly how we did last month, so that I don't need to worry, because it keeps me up at night. Like, I know we're doing fine, but still, I'm just obsessive compulsive that way. I have to know where I get freaked out. So that's how we do it currently. It's not a perfect system, but I think we're going to make it better, and I'll let you know how that goes.
When do citations no longer become a thing?
Yeah, so this is I actually kind of like talking about this stuff more than I do the business invoicing type stuff, because it's I don't know, I guess I feel like I've been doing this stuff for longer, whereas the business stuff, I really, like, we've been in business for 7 years roughly, and we've built a bunch of companies, but like I only recently kind of started picking up on the whole, what the hell am I doing? Because it was all just like kind of figuring out as I going along, not being able to put a name to what the hell I'm doing. It's just like, there's just this function, I'm going to do this, and hopefully it'll yield this. And it was only, maybe a couple years ago where I started to actually figure out what it was that I was doing. Anyways, the question is where is citation building going, essentially? Citation building as an effort, I suppose, of SEO. And this, I got this question on the phone the other day, and I thought, oh, what a brilliant question. At least I think it is. And basically, as we've seen with other types of link building, let's use scholarship link building as an example. There was once upon a time where I could do a scholarship link building effort for somebody, and it would yield massive results. It would be tremendous, right? And they would get, 150 links or 80 links or 50 links, depending on, on the campaign, from amazing websites. Like, I'm talking like Stanford, Cambridge, like top universities. Universities with domain authorities of like 70, 80, maybe more, right? And so at one time it would do amazing things. And as they always do, marketers ruin everything. SEO is even worse. And so now when I do that same campaign, I pretty much get nothing. And I'll get just as many links, if not more. Same type of links, still do follow, nothing's changed. Same dilution on page, so same sort of OBL, outbound linking on the page. Nothing's changed. But what happened is, and I mean, I don't know this with certainty, of course, I'm speculating. What happened is Google decided, well, the best way that we can deal with this is, well, we can't penalize them because we would end up, we'd probably end up nailing a whole bunch of innocent people. But rather, let's just devalue them. Let's make them less valuable, right? And so now, like I said, when I do a scholarship campaign, nothing happens. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money, in my opinion, unless, well, I mean, for an SEO value, it's a waste of time. Of course, we want to give back. But, and then the trap, it's just, I don't generally do them unless my concern is, I've got this big client, he's got a huge link profile, and he's got maybe too much of one type of link, and I want to diversify that. I want some scholarships. I want some EDUs. And so for that purpose, I will do it. But let's see. As far as the citations are concerned, I think they're probably going the same way. So a citation, if you don't know, is just an occurrence. As far as local SEO is concerned, excuse me, it's just an occurrence of name, address, phone number. Generally, some people will argue that it's an occurrence of name, address, phone number, website, or URL, or whatever. But let's just assume name, address, phone number. So it can occur anywhere, right? It can occur on a directory, like a local business directory, which is the typical sense. That's what people are talking about citations. They're usually talking about local business directories. But it could be anything, right? It's just an occurrence of your business information online. That's all it is. But anyways, in past years, we'd see more of an organic bump, so a non-local bump in rankings from citations. We see less of that now, and I can't say that I see less of a bump locally, because I think local's always been slow. And by that I mean, like, you build citations, and generally speaking, you're not going to see any result of those citations for 60 to 90 days, which I believe is still a result of the local index, Google's local index, only updating every 60 to 90 days. So it takes that long for them to uncover any changes that you've made and sort of credit you for them. So I haven't, it's a very hard thing to track, right? Because you do so many things in that time. You've added so many other variables. So it's really hard to test whether, citations are, as far as influencing the local algorithm, whether they're more effective now or less effective than they were previously. I don't know how anyone would really track that other than just kind of feeling it out. They've been in the industry long enough and they kind of feel it out. I can't say that I've really noticed anything, but I do feel like anything that's scalable, anything that can be automated, Google's kind of going to eventually devalue. So I think if they haven't already been devalued, they're probably going to be devalued. And I don't know whether they'll be devalued in the local algorithm or they'll be devalued in the organic sort of algorithm. And I know those aren't really, real names for the algorithm per se, but I kind of think of them as that way. Local and organic. So I don't know, but I would suspect because, like I said, it's super scalable and people have automated it so well, and I would imagine it'd kind of go the way of the blog comment. People still do it, and it has its benefits and its perks, and I think it'll just become one of those things that you have to do. We know it influences the local algorithm, so we have to do it. But that's all we're going to, that's all we should expect from it. And so that's we just do it because we have to. We know we have to do it, and that's it. So, and I think a lot of links are probably going that way. Anything that can be scaled. I think another really great example is editorial links. Something I've been heavily involved with as of recent. And I remember back in the day when I could get a link from, Forbes or Inc. or Huffington or, whatever, and it'd be the same kind of link, right? Contextual, do follow, et cetera, same type of page, and I would see a big boost in my rankings. Today, same thing, nothing, or very little anyways. And so usually when I'm advising people on editorial links, I'm talking to them about other stuff other than just I'm not telling them just get the most powerful link they can, although it's important. But I'm also talking about what is the current state of your link profile? What is the TTF or the topical trust flow of it? What is your inbound links? How topical are they to what you do? And so if you don't have much topical relevance when compared to the rest of your SERP, then maybe that's something we work on. And so when we buy links for you, we don't just look for what's the most powerful thing. We look at what's the most powerful, but also what is the most topical thing. And we spend a lot more time on that because we know that we need to get as much bang for our buck here. And in this sort of environment, in this sort of SEO environment, we have to think about other angles instead of just DA or just authority or what have you. So we've had to start looking at other things beyond just power, just raw power, because raw power, it doesn't seem to, at least from editorial links, it doesn't seem to work the way it did in the past. So just got to be a little bit smarter about our link choices. And likewise with citations, they will one day they will still be part of the local algorithm, sure, but they're not going to do what they used to, and we're going to have to get more creative, and we're going to have to make sure that our link profile is more well-rounded and so on and so forth. So, well, I think that'll do it. I'm exhausted. These topics. I always try and pick topics that I can kind of go in on without there's no notes. There's no to be totally honest, before I got here, I was I looked over the notes and I was like, or the ideas, and I was like, okay, I think I know how to answer that one. That was the extent of, and I just picked the ones right before that I could sort of go in on. And what happens is we end up with a 30-minute thing because I picked topics that I'm just so kind of passionate about, and it just becomes a mess. So forgive me. Guys, thank you, as always, for your attention. It's amazing. It means a lot to me, and I hope that I have brought some value to you. You can return the favor. You don't have to, but I would appreciate it, of course. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe, please, please, please. If you're checking this video out on Facebook, then like my page / the Adam G. Steele. And more than anything, I just love to engage with you. Leave a comment in Facebook, leave a comment in YouTube, hit me up on Twitter at Adam G. Steele again, and get in touch. Ask me some questions. Give me something to do. Make these videos worthwhile for you, because, like I've said before, like, I'm not doing them for me. I'm doing them to try and help you. So if you've got questions, you let me know, and we'll make it happen. We'll get you some answers, and we will cater the show based on what you want to hear about. So anyways, thank you very much. I do appreciate it, and you have yourself a wonderful day.